Well, hello again, my beautiful audience. This is another episode of Pop Talk brought to you by the good old So to Speak. The good old folks at So to Speak. I'm your host, Cody MacDonald, and I'm here with a guy that you probably all know. You might recognize his voice from such podcasts as So to Speak and his band Moody Boy. Say hello to Lyle Groniger, ladies and gentlemen.
Howdy, howdy. Nice to be here. Nice to be on your new show.
Yeah, this is a first.
Yeah, very cushy. I'm enjoying it so far. I look forward to it every 2 weeks.
Oh, thank you. It's only the start, but hopefully the show gets a little bit better and cleaner cut as we go on. But
yeah, it takes time.
we all have a starting point.
Yeah.
So you're in a band right now.
Yeah, currently. I mean, we're kind of just working on our demos right now to attract more members because, unfortunately, my drummer left. So that kind of put a halt on things. But I think what it did was it made me and my guitarist, Chris, say, we got to buckle down and start working on our material and getting it out there for people. So, yeah, my demo tape is coming out in July. So I'll be posting it soon. And yeah, it's looking forward. It's kind of hard to do gigging these days because of the virus. But yeah, I'm hoping to do some more stuff in the summer. I'm also in a Sublime cover band, so hopefully we can go to a park and just jam.
I did not know you were in a cover band. That's awesome.
Yeah, no, it's a lot of fun. A lot of people I've worked with in the past are a part of it, and it's just so much fun. Because Moody Boy I take a lot more seriously, but with a cover band, it's just kind of more relaxed.
Now, to differentiate Moody Boy from the band that you're with where you lost the drummer, is that the same band you're talking about? Or?
No, Moody Boy was the band where I lost my drummer.
Okay.
It wasn't like anything like serious. It's just his style was very different from ours. Like, we're very post-punk and emo, and he was very traditionally trained, like almost like funk and jazz. So I guess it was just like a conflict of interest, and he didn't
tastes.
He didn't seem to flourish too well, and I was kind of thinking of maybe letting him go and just have him do something that he might be more interested in. So yeah, it was kind of a mutual thing. I don't hold any grievances. He was a nice guy.
It always seems like drummers always drop out a little bit more in bands.
Well, I mean, because I think it's because they're in the back and they're not really writing. Sometimes they don't write the music and they just have to kind of do things. And they're not always given the best direction. I always feel bad because I don't know how to speak drums, you know? I don't know how to, conduct a drum set, you know? Because I never played one, really. It's not an instrument I have a whole lot of experience with. You ever played GTA?
Oh, of course.
Yeah, I've been going through a bit of a marathon myself. I recently, like a month ago, I beat GTA 3, and that game has aged about as well as milk. But I still beat it without cheats, so I'm proud. And then I beat Vice City. Fantastic soundtrack. My God, that game still looks pretty good to this day, too.
Yeah.
It's a little bit more tight. And now I'm playing San Andreas, and just before we started this, I beat that goddamn wrong side of the tracks mission. You ever heard of that one?
I never really played the storylines for the Grand Theft Auto games. I've only done it with the fifth one, and it was only probably a 25% of the game that I beat. When I played Grand Theft Auto, I'm just roaming around, doing whatever I want, whenever I want. I don't care. It's just all about the escapism.
Yeah, you're a sandbox player. That's respectable. I mean, that's part of the joy. Me, I'm just such a nerd that I just have to crunch down and beat the story mode before I do anything. So I get all the good guns.
It definitely benefits if you play the whole game with its story because you unlock everything. So
yeah, of course.
It does have that going for it.
Yeah.
What's the wrong side of the tracks level?
Oh, God. Okay, so there's some cartel members who jump on top of a train, and you have to kill them, right? So you're following a train on a motorcycle, and you have your friend who's got, he's got the guns, so you have to drive right next to this train, and you have to wait for your stupid AI partner to shoot all the members off the train. And it's really hard because he has terrible aim, and you're being shot at. You have to watch the road. There's a train that comes right at you at one point, and you have to speed through. It's very easy to get flung off the bike if you're too far away. You get the infamous, "All you had to do was follow the damn train, CJ!" You get that a lot. It took me 4 tries, but I finally beat it. And afterwards, I was like, That was not as hard as I expected. Because sometimes I play GTA and I can fail like 10 times in a row, and I have to keep reloading my save state so I have all my guns and all my health and stuff, and I have to keep going back and forth, driving down the same goddamn road to get to the next mission. But with this one, it's like, that wasn't so bad. I did it. It's often considered the hardest mission in the entire series, and I did it, and I feel kind of relieved.
And I'm sure you went through that whole level without cussing a single time, right?
Yeah, or throwing a single controller, you know? I'm a very reserved person. You know?
Like, oh, I died 20 times. That's okay.
No,
I'll just try it one more time.
No, but for real, don't play video games with me. Evan can back me up on this. I'm the worst. But anyway.
Yeah, games to me is just, it all depends on what it is. Like, I'm a platformer gamer. That's
those are the
kind
best.
Those are the ones I grew up with. I've now just changed my gears a little bit more with the helps of my fiance with video games where they're a little bit more story driven with choices. Whether it's, I'm trying to think of examples like Life is Strange or Heavy Rain, Detroit, the Telltale games, stuff like that, where there's so many different outcomes no matter how you play it. It's kind of like watching a movie, so it's kind of like a bit of a cheat, but no, I'm all about the Ratchet and Clank, Jak and Daxter, Sly Cooper, Mario kind of games.
Rock.
The colorful games where you have to jump on one platform and try to jump on the other platform perfectly, or else you're gonna fall over and then fucking throw your controller at the screen.
Yeah. And then they'll throw you a curveball. It's like, you gotta drive a vehicle in this section. I'm like, well, why? Why can't I just hop around like a little froggy? I'm not trained for this. No, the Jak games are awesome. Veronica and I actually just beat Detroit Become Human not too long ago. We got the super good ending, and I was like, nice. That was nice.
I mean, that's another topic for another day. It's very
totally
subjective when it comes to these games, like whether it's going to satisfy you or not, because the second Life is Strange game, I was satisfied with the ending that we ended up getting the first time. Veronica was a bit disappointed, and then we looked up other endings to it, and she felt like the one that we saw online felt a bit better to her point of view. So it is all subjective, really. But that's also the fun of these kind of games. Just play it again and do the complete opposite of what you just did before.
I can't imagine how much of a headache it is to write a game like Detroit Become Human, where you have to think of every single possible breadcrumb that could lead to a certain outcome, and you have to put everything into consideration. As a player, it's a little heart racing, because it's like, oh, I just want to do the right thing. Or you could just be like, I don't give a fuck, give me the worst ending ever.
Exactly.
Have them all die, I don't care. They're not technically alive to begin with.
Or just purposely botch the storyline, make all the wrong choices, and then just see what the outcome's going to be. Just let's just see what happens by the end.
That's the joy. It reminds me of like Bandersnatch on Netflix, like that Black Mirror stuff.
Yep, exactly. That's a good comparison, yeah. To jump back a bit, you said that your album is going to come out this July. I believe I saw your album of it on social media for a quick second.
Yeah, I posted in a story, and I haven't really cemented a date yet. I just want to get it polished first, do some mixing, and just have it as tight as I can be, like as tight as it can be, and then it'll be ready by July. I'm pretty confident I can get that done.
How many tracks do you have?
6.
6, nice. So it's kind of like Sid's Room.
Yeah, I mean, it's not the same tone, but same level of tracks, because they're demos. It's just so I can get people invested, you know?
Yeah, I'm happy that you said it's not the same tone as Sid's Room. It feels like you're kind of progressed a bit.
Yeah, there's more diversity in the sound, for sure.
That's good.
I got some grunge in there. I got some punk. I got some emo. Like it's gonna be a nice mix.
Sweet.
Even some experimental stuff. We'll see. See how it clicks.
I know you are probably the only friend that I know where we can actually jam out together. I don't have many friends that play an instrument. The few times that we have just sat around and just sort of pluck around with the acoustics, it was nice, and it made me think maybe one day I'll start a band, because I haven't done that yet. I just don't know if I will gel well. I don't know if I would be just uptight and too much of a control freak. I don't know. I'd hate to see that side of me, even though that there is a side of me that I want to see flourish of creativity in music.
Yeah, no, I've been in enough bad bands to know what not to do. Like, don't practice for 10 months straight and only do one gig and then that's it. Or, like, don't just, like, be the center of attention and not let anyone, like, not hear anyone else out when they have an idea.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that kind of thing. Like, I've been through the meat grinder that is being in several bands, so... Yeah, I try to keep a good atmosphere, Moody Boy. It's a little tough because we still haven't gotten our refined sound yet, so we're still kind of in the early phases, but I'm feeling pretty good about it so far, and I can't wait to do my first show, quite honestly. It's going to be nice.
It's good. It's good that you have experience to back it up, too.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, I guess that takes us to a movie that is going to probably make our fucking head spin.
We were speaking earlier about storylines that could go any which way but loose.
Yes, we are now talking about a film that wasn't too big at the time in terms of its critical reception and as well as its audience reception, because it didn't really make its money back until a few short years later, where it became what's considered to be the greatest cult comedy film of all time. And that is the 1998 Coen Brothers film, The Big Lebowski. It stars Jeff Bridges, John Goodman, Julianne Moore, Steve Buscemi, John Turturro. The list goes on. I can honestly keep going, but those are the key main characters in this movie, or the key main cast members, I should say.
I guess you could say Steve Buscemi plays a key role. If you want.
Yeah, very integral. It was probably the easiest paycheck of his entire career to be Donnie. Like,
shut the fuck up, Donnie.
just stand there and just sit there and be totally confused and just be quiet the whole time. Yeah.
Just be kind of disengaged from the whole thing. Yeah. As soon as you said the word cult film, the hairs on my skin just rose because I'm a bit of a cult connoisseur myself, and I'm very happy you gave me the chance to talk about this film because it's delightfully idiosyncratic, and I always appreciate that in films. And you're right, when it came out, it definitely flew by the radar. I looked at the Box Office Mojo, and it opened like 6th, which is pretty bad, and that just sunk. Because I think this was around the time Titanic was still in theaters. I looked and it was still like number 1.
That's right. Actually, fun fact about that, I know that Titanic was right at the end of 1997, and it became number 1 in the box office, leading all the way till a quarter of the way through 1998. And do you want to know
months.
And do you want to know the first movie that broke its streak of being number 1?
Avatar. Oh wait, no, sorry. That was later. That was way later.
Way later.
What was the first movie to break its streak?
Lost in Space. How embarrassing. How embarrassing.
Oh, no. I mean, I guess eventually anything could just take the reins after so long. I barely even remembered that existed.
But with The Big Lebowski, as we said, like, it took a while for it to find its footing and for people to go back and kind of reevaluate it and see of what it is just being this gigantic farce of a film. I mean, that kind of takes us, honestly, into what the Coen Brothers were trying to set out to do with this film, which was, they said that they wanted to make it a cross between a Raymond Chandler novel from the 1940s and have it set in the modern world of Los Angeles, but have it be a tone of a Western at the same time.
Okay.
I don't know if you're familiar with Raymond Chandler novels, but apparently they're just PI novels where the detective will literally just meet one character after the other and try to piece together what the witnesses have to have anything to do with the case, and then he just tries to blend it all together with all this information, which is essentially what the dude goes through with this movie. The problem is he's far from being a detective, and that's where the comedy comes in.
Yeah, he's a little out of his element, if you will.
Yes.
Yeah. No, I have heard of that, for sure. The joke being that it's just some burnout who never got past the 60s. Essentially, and that's our main character.
Well, that kind of goes into both the main characters of John Goodman and Jeff Bridges, where they're both sort of living in the past in some way, but one is more living make love not war, and the other person is affected by the war. There's just like this post-traumatic stress that Walter, played by John Goodman, is going through, where he is just living in the past.
I mean, that's just such a nice character dynamic of someone wrapped in the counterculture of the day and someone who's like a total patriot.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's hilarious.
Even though that they yell at each other all the time, at the end of the day, they do respect each other's values, and they just sort of mend their friendship, like instantly.
Yeah. Nothing really slows them down, which I think is the sign of true friendship. I mean, a perfect example is like when the dude's like, I think it was after the whole fucking Larry incident, which we'll talk about later. He's in his house, he's having a call, he's trying to board up the door. It's like, yeah, Walter, here's an idea. Why don't you just leave me the fuck alone? God damn it. Yeah, I'll see you at bowling. See you at practice.
Yeah.
It's just, you yell at him, and then 1 second later, oh yeah, I'll see you soon.
That's a very common phrase that is said a lot in the movie, where it's like, fuck it, let's go bowling.
Fuck it, dude. Let's go bowling.
So the Coen Brothers apparently based the character of the dude off of their friend Jeff Loeb.
Yeah.
Who also refers to himself as the dude. And I think this guy helped them out with trying to get the Coen Brothers their own rights to their own distribution for their first film, Blood Simple, which came out in the late 80s. And
he did.
I don't know if he's as lazy as they portray the dude in this film, but I'm kind of struggling right now where to start with it without having to get into the plot, because it is a lot to decipher. So usually on this program, I would say, so the log line of this film is this, but I spent so much time trying to figure out the exact sentence to say the log line of this film, and all I can come up with is, through a series of misunderstandings, mistaken identities, and wrong place at the wrong time, a lazy slacker gets entangled with life of crime and the LA Times. That's all I can say. That's all I can really come up with.
It's an odyssey about a dude who just wanted his rug.
Yeah, or that too, yeah.
Which really tied the room together, you know?
Fucking A.
Fucking A.
That kind of brings me to the vocabulary in this film. So apparently, the word dude was uttered in the film 162 times. The word man was uttered in the film 198 times. And the F-bomb was said 285 times. I mean, not really up to the, Wolf of Wall Street or Scarface levels, but that's pretty fucking high for a film just shy under 2 hours.
Yeah, for a crime comedy, for sure, yeah.
So tell me, Lyle, when did you first see this movie, and what were your first thoughts?
You know what, man? I really slacked on seeing this movie. When I saw the poster for this film, I was like, is this literally like a bowling tournament? Is that what the movie's about? Is it about a bowling tournament? And it technically is, and it technically isn't. I thought it was just some wacky sports film, kind of like Kingpin, you know?
Yeah.
That's why that was the instant comparison I had. And I think I saw Kingpin at a super young age, and I didn't really like it. It kind of scared me a lot, especially when his hand gets crushed by the ball. But I finally got around to it probably, or I would say when I was in the height of my Tarantino phase back in high school. And because Coen Brothers and Tarantino kind of go hand in hand. They were like around this. They got really huge around the same time.
I agree.
And Big Lebowski. I watched it and I got so enamored with it because it was super quotable, which is something I always like in films. I love things that are super quotable. It had like this extremely passive tone where it's just like so laid back. It's practically a hangout movie at times. And yet the situations these guys find themselves in, I found them so hilarious and so out of left field that I adored it the first time I watched it. And still to this day, I watch it and I'm not the least bit like bored or it's like, oh, this part's coming up, this part's coming up. It's like, oh, this part's coming up, this part's coming up. I showed it to my best friend at the time, who I will talk about later because he reminded me a hell of a lot of Walter's character. And he had a girlfriend at the time we were watching it. But by the time we got to that like bowling pin scene with like all the ladies, she was like, is this a sex film? Is this one of those sex comedies like American Pie? And I'm like, not really. And I don't know. Would you say this is like a stoner film?
In some respects, yes. I mean, I think it was either Jeff Bridges or John Goodman who said in an interview that I just watched where you don't need to be high to enjoy this movie. And I do agree. I have experimented with smoking weed and watching this film, and while it certainly does enhance the experience, I find that it's not a stoner film where it's in the same vein as like a Cheech and Chong or a I don't know, Harold and Kumar. Like it's not as dumbed down as those movies. It's a lot more smartly written.
It's better made too.
Yeah, like the techniques are a lot better in this. Yeah, no, I kind of share the same thoughts, actually. I saw it in mid-high school, and I believe I must have thought it was Kingpin at a certain point. I honestly just thought the same way as you. I thought this was just a tournament bowling movie with just that typical structure. And I want to get into that more with the character of Jesus on how this movie is
Yes.
this movie is almost teasing you that it's almost going down that traditional route of a storyline.
Yeah, I know.
But we'll get
Yeah.
to that.
Well,
I saw in high school. I was going through a Coen Brothers phase. I love the Coen Brothers. I loved Fargo. I loved Blood Simple. I loved Barton Fink. I loved Raising Arizona, or Brother Where Art Thou.
that's my dad's favorite movie, Raising Arizona. That was my gateway.
Yeah.
And every time I watch it, I always think of my dad. And Fargo too. We watched that a lot together.
I just find their writing a lot more sophisticated and just very on point with their comedy and how dry it can be. And
Yeah.
so when I saw this film, I loved it so much the first time, and I said to myself the same thing I said after I watched Pulp Fiction was I cannot wait to watch this again for two reasons. One, it was hilarious, and I knew that there were jokes that completely flew over my head because it's pretty fast and subtle. And two, I need to know what the fuck just happened because this is a purposely convoluted film, and
Yeah.
that's sort of part of the rewatchability of it is to try to decipher it. Before we get into it, because I know we're gonna like just probably make our heads spin. It's gonna be a lot of fun, and I'm excited for it. But
I took notes this time when I watched it, and I made an entire plot graph, so I will be able to keep up with you. Rest assured.
You'll be on point, yeah.
Yeah.
What was your favorite scene in the film?
I prepared this. I think my favorite scenes of the
Ooh.
film are any scene where like the dude, Walter, and Donnie are just chilling out playing a game, and the frickin' conversations they have. It almost feels like a group chat on Facebook where one guy will start talking about something, another person will hop in, just be like, "Guys, guess what happened to me the other day?" And then the other person is trying to follow both conversations at once. They're like, "That's great, John. I'm very happy for you, but Johnny, this here is not actually how it happened." And then the other person's like, "What are you talking about?" It's like, I was talking to the other guy. I wasn't talking to you." Like it's a perfect example.
That's a really good comparison. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a group chat, and group chat conversations are hilarious. Which kind of reminded me of like something like Wes Anderson's like Darjeeling Limited. They have a lot of that because it's like three brothers. It's something I would compare it to. But like with every scene with John Goodman, the dude, and Donnie, it's just so great. They'll start talking about Lennon. And Donnie thinks they're talking about John Lennon,
Yeah.
and with no real context, he just keeps saying, "I am the walrus, I am the walrus." Like it's almost like
Shut
a friend
the fuck up, Donnie. It's V.I. Lenin we're talking about. Vladimir Ilyich Ulyanov.
The conversation does not stop and end at your convenience, you piece of shit. And remember the one part where I always love the part where like Donnie has news about the tournament. He's like, "Guys, we got news about the tournament." Shut the fuck up, Donnie. Wait, what?
Yeah.
And it's like he not really necessary to tell him to shut up. He was just saying something, but it's hardwired into Walter's head to just kind of like disregard anything Donnie says because Donnie doesn't follow along very easily.
And can you believe that this whole movie was not improv?
Oh yeah, that's the incredible part because every single conversation feels real.
It's natural. It feels. I mean, they said that we would insert, man and dude within the sentences, but there was never a point that they went off script. In fact, the only point that Jeff Bridges went off script is when he was ranting at the bigger Lebowski at the end when he calls him a human paraquat. That was ad-libbed. And the Coen Brothers were like, you know what? We love that. Let's just keep it in.
Do you know what a paraquat is, Cody? Because I researched it. Okay, I researched it while I watched it the second time, and it's actually kind of a story. So a paraquat was a herbicide that was used specifically to kill marijuana plants, because I think it was used back in the 60s or 70s. And what weed farmers would do is after they sprayed it, they would harvest the shit out of this weed so that they could salvage it and sell it to people. And it was considered the killer weed because it wasn't good for you. It made anyone who used it very sick. No one died from it, but the stuff itself was it was a carcinogen. So for the dude to call someone a human paraquat means he hates this person so much it actually would negatively affect the one thing he's passionate about more than anything, and that's weed. Yeah, but
that is funny. I did not know that was the term paraquat.
That's what a human paraquat. Now you know.
My favorite scene would honestly have to be when they track down good old Larry and confront him about his homework.
That is the funniest scene in the movie. I was so close to saying that, but yeah, that scene's fucking beautiful.
Because I my stomach was hurting so much because that's how hard I was laughing the first time I saw this film. And every time I watch it, I still just get a smile on my face. It's just it's so amusing. All right, you know what? I'm going to do a cheers right now. I don't know if anybody can hear this, but if you're hearing some ice clanking in my glass, I made a White Russian for myself for the occasion.
Nice.
And funny enough, I didn't tell you this yet, but as I was making this drink, I should have done what the dude did in the very first scene that we see him in, inspecting the half and half, because I poured a little bit of half and half, which I got literally last week, and it was only a small amount. It was one of those small cartons. And I don't drink that much coffee, and when I do, it's there. I just need a small amount. Don't need a big thing. It curdled my fucking drink, and I tasted it, I spat it out, and I was smelling the inside of that carton, and it smelled like, imagine if a foot had an ass. That's what it smelled like. I don't know if that's possible.
You bogarted it, dude.
So I settled with milk instead. So technically this is a brown cow with a shot of vodka, but whatever.
How now, brown cow? Well, how's it taste? I don't think I've ever had a White Russian before.
Oh, it's not bad. I have these every Christmas. Ever since I discovered what the dude's go-to drink is, I'm like, that's my special occasion drink.
Yeah, nice.
Special Caucasian drink, I should say.
Yeah, I always want to try it because I really like alcohols that have coffee liqueurs in them, like Baileys and stuff. So one of these
Baileys,
days,
yeah.
One of these
Kahlua is the go-to.
Yeah, Kahlua is his preference. Yeah.
All right, here we go.
Okay.
Let's get into some awesome trivia with Pop Quiz Hotshot.
Oh, I've been dreading this. I don't like being tested. I don't want to make an ass of myself. But okay, so we're giving each other 3 questions or 5 questions.
We'll do 5. We'll just you lay them all out to me, and then I'll lay them all out to you afterwards.
Okay. How many times does the dude roll a bowling ball in the film?
Shit, I wrote that down. 0 times.
Technically, he did roll once in the fantasy sequence, but you're right.
Fantasy does not count, but yes, that's
the only time he actually rolls a ball, but then he turns into the ball and goes down the lane himself. It is a weird sequence, but yeah, you're right. He doesn't technically do any bowling throughout the film, despite the fact they're in a goddamn tournament. It's usually either Walter or Donnie who does most of the work. What national crisis was used as the backdrop of the film?
What national crisis? That was the 90s. I'm really bad right now. I usually am a history buff and I know these things. What was it?
It was the Iraqi invasion of Kuwait. You see it in the television.
Yes.
In that opening scene in the grocery store. And George Bush says, "This aggression will not stand." And then the dude...
Fuck, you said another one of my questions.
Fuck.
Damn it.
Oh,
you said another one.
Hey,
That's so funny.
Hey, you said one of mine earlier. I had that one written down, but which U.S. president does the dude keep on his wall in his living room?
It was George Bush?
Richard Nixon.
Oh, it was Richard Nixon.
There's a picture of Richard Nixon bowling in the White House, which is in the basement. Oh, I feel like I gave you some really hard ones. This one, I'm going to give you a choice. So, which famous screenwriter director was the inspiration for the character of Walter Sobchak? Was it A. John Frankenheimer, B. John Milius, or C. Francis Ford Coppola?
John Frankenheimer, John Milius, or Francis Ford Coppola. I'm gonna go John Frankenheimer.
No, it's B. John Milius. You might know John Milius. He was the writer-director of Red Dawn, and he wrote a hell of a lot for Apocalypse Now. He wrote like 500 pages or something absurd like that for the script, and he's a very heavy right-wing gun nut conspiracy kind of guy. He actually states many times that he got blacklisted out of Hollywood because of his political extremes.
Interesting.
So yeah, he looks a lot like Walter, he acts a lot like Walter. I could see a guy like Walter writing Apocalypse Now, so that was the person who the Coen Brothers based a heavy amount of the character on.
Nice.
Okay, so my last one. This one, I'm pretty sure you know this one, but what late 90s crime drama later used the same coffee shop in Big Lebowski?
I'm gonna go with LA Confidential.
No, it was American History X.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that one. And that location later got shut down, and now it's just used solely for shooting. It's no longer open, so...
I saw something recently where I don't know the full story, so I'm going to try to paraphrase it as much as possible, but apparently there was a fire in this building that kept a lot of some film negatives from polygram pictures. The Big Lebowski was salvaged from this fire, and the only scene that they didn't have that could have been properly restored was that diner scene. And then apparently I think they released a couple of like screeners to Mexico. I think that's where it was actually dubbed over. So all they had to do was bring that footage over and redub that scene with John Goodman and Jeff Bridges. But John Goodman wasn't available, so they had to have an impersonator do that whole scene. So anytime you watch the Blu-ray or the DVDs now, that's not John Goodman voicing that scene.
Yeah, that whole story was in that opening the opening scene with the film preservation guy. Honest to God, dude, I didn't know that was for real. I thought that was some joke scene that the Coen Brothers wrote.
Yep. When I had this on DVD years ago and I saw that, I couldn't tell because something about it. Yeah, I felt that too.
Yeah,
where it felt like, is this a joke?
It had that awkward Coen Brothers kind of dryness to it. And I thought it was like, it's like, we realize this is a cult film and now we're gonna make up some phony baloney story or something like that. But if that's real, like, my God,
you got to keep your negatives in the salt mines, and then they'll be fine.
Salt mines, that's the way to go.
I bet you that's where Star Wars is, but that's another story.
Someday. The original cuts. Alright, Cody, sock it to me. What do you got for a quiz?
What was the name of the bowler who stepped over the line?
Smokey.
Smokey, yeah.
Sorry, Smokey, this isn't NAM. There are rules.
Bullshit, Walter. Mark it 8, dude.
Smokey, you're about to enter a world of pain.
Alright, you crazy fuck. I'll mark it 0.
Rules. Yeah.
What day of the week can't Walter drive on?
What day of the week, or like what? I think it was just a holiday on one specific day, but forgive me for my bad pronunciation. It's like Shulber Shabbos or something. I think it's on a Sunday.
Close. Saturday.
God, jeez. Okay.
Yeah.
Do I at least get a half point for remembering the name of the day?
Sure.
Shulber Shabbos. Okay. I sure as hell don't roll on Shabbos.
How many episodes of Branded did Arthur Digby Sellers write?
I know it's in the 160s, but I don't know the exact number.
It was 156 episodes.
God damn it. 156.
Bulk of the series.
Not a lightweight.
And yet his son's a fucking dunce. The quoting, it's not going to end.
No, never will.
Finish this quote. Lady, I got buddies who lied face down in the muck. Blank.
That's during the coffee shop scene.
Yep, we were just talking about it.
So don't be telling me when or where I can leave to... I don't remember the exact phrasing.
So that you and I can enjoy this family restaurant.
Yeah, I remember family restaurant somewhere in there. Of all the quotes, that one kind of slipped under my radar.
Which foot did Bonnie supposedly get her toe cut off?
The right one.
Yep, you got it. Okay. I got nothing. I got nothing else.
I was gonna ask you how many times dude was said in the movie, but you already said that one, so I was like,
All right. The way that I want to break down the movie is obviously, we'll go through it scene by scene, little points. But if we're gonna talk about how to crack the case of this movie, I've actually come to this conclusion, and it's actually something that might help you out with this. The proper way to break down the plot of The Big Lebowski is to literally take one little aspect out of the equation, and that is anytime the dude or Walter has some sort of opinion or perception on something that has nothing to do with any information given to them is completely excluded. So, for instance, when the dude was persistently saying, I think that Bonnie kidnapped herself, that was before even Maude said that this whole ransom is a sham. And then Walter was the one that kind of twisted this whole thing, saying she didn't get kidnapped. Yeah. It's all staged.
It's all so anytime fucking amateurs.
Exactly.
Keep opinions out the door. Facts are the only thing that matters. Opinions are like assholes. Everyone has one, so don't go sniffing in the wrong crevice. Okay, so I guess if we're gonna start anywhere, I guess we're gonna start at the inciting incident of the film. The dude comes back from a small shopping spree of creamer and gets he had to write a check for 69 cents. I thought you were gonna ask me that, like, how much did he pay for the creamer? 69 cents. 69 cents, dude. He gets accosted by two thugs belonging to Jackie Treehorn because they confuse him with the richer and more accomplished Big Lebowski. There's two Lebowskis in the area, and they picked the wrong one. They angered that they wasted their time and the fact that the dude was being so difficult because they had no fucking clue. One of them urinates all over his favorite rug in the living room.
No, not on the rug, man.
He looks like a fucking loser. Hey, well,
at least I'm housebroken.
And my favorite joke in the scene is like when one of them picks up a bowling ball. It's like, what the hell is this? Clearly, you are not a golfer.
The actor that played that thug that was dunking the dude's head in the toilet, I don't know if this was an intentional casting choice, but just to go on a little side thing, in the last season of Lost, he basically plays the island's protector, Jacob, and he pretty much does the exact same thing to this one character, trying to prove that he's alive and that he's not dead. He drags him out into the ocean and just dunks his head in the water and lifts him up again, saying, "Do you still think you're dead? Do you still think you're dead?" And I'm thinking to myself, the Big Lebowski had to have been brought up on set, because that's too similar.
Yeah, that guy's been in a lot of things, eh?
He plays Lucifer in Supernatural.
Only you, Cody, could bring Lost into this conversation, because I have yet to see the show. So after the big event, the big inciting incident, the dude visits his friends at the bowling alley, seeing what the hell they can do, and Walter suggests approaching the real Big Lebowski to see if he can get compensated for the incident, since he's partly responsible. So he goes to the Big Lebowski, asking for a payment on the rug. The Big Lebowski, being a bit of a proud, high one percenter, is basically like, I shouldn't take responsibility for any of this. You should take responsibility for your own life, you bum! Are you employed, Mr. Lebowski? He just fucking rags on him. And the dude just kind of shrugs it off and takes it as a sign that, you know what? Fuck it. I'm gonna take my own rug from your oversized house. And this is where we also meet Bunny, who's the.
We also meet Uli.
Uli, that sounds about right. Yeah, I think it was Uli.
So that's implied that he's within the household of the Big Lebowski. So that's your first indication. Is he in on this kidnapping or not, or is he hired? Yeah, but we will get to that.
Yeah, we should mention Bunny is a very important part. She's a very integral piece of this puzzle, because later it's found that she's kidnapped and supposedly held at ransom, and the dude is contracted by the Big Lebowski to perform the exchange. of the money so that she can be returned safely. Things go critically wrong when Walter volunteers to help with the exchange because he was supposed to go alone. Walter wasn't supposed to be there. So they totally botch it. Like, Walter brings a ringer full of dirty underwear. They have to fling it over a bridge. It's like, oh, that's not going to work, dude. That totally fucks with the plan. Then when the dude comes home after... Oh, we should also mention the dude's car is the biggest victim of this story.
Oh, poor car.
So many fucking terrible things happen to his car.
Oh my God.
That's the first thing. It gets shot out because Walter brings a goddamn rifle to the altercation.
No, he brings an Uzi.
Yeah, or it was an Uzi? Okay, it looked bigger.
Yeah.
So anyways, he jumps out the car. The thing starts firing on its own and it hits the taillights. The dude returns home and is accosted by Maud, who she and her group...
Well, hang on. His car gets stolen. You can't forget that. That's a very big piece.
Oh, yeah, it was stolen and then later impounded, yeah. Sometimes when I was writing these notes, I was writing from memory before the event actually happens, so forgive me if it's a little chronologically confused. But yeah.
Nope, that's okay.
So after this car gets stolen during a bowling game, Maud comes into his house. She and her thugs hit him and take the rug. It was a very special rug that belonged to her.
Yeah,
from her
that's
mother.
Right.
So,
that's right.
Yeah, more on Maud. She is the Big Lebowski's daughter. The estranged daughter, I suppose you could say.
She's a feminist artist.
Yes. A radical artist, if you will. And she basically has the dude come by, and she reveals her part in the Lebowski Trust Fund, which is a huge... money arrangement that the Big Lebowski had for impoverished children, and
those little needy urban achievers.
Oh, so he gets around. He's okay with the race thing. Oh, they're not his actual children. the little Lebowskis or whatever. But she believes that the kidnapping is all part of an embezzlement scheme, and she asks to return the ransom money if he has it. But unfortunately, the money in the briefcase was inside the stolen car. So now it becomes a race to find this car, which is really important to the dude. It had his credence tapes, don't you know, and some very important papers. So anyways.
Yes. Oh my God.
Yeah.
You know what? I did not even pick up on that.
So important. Well, yeah, he's unemployed. Why would he have business papers?
I thought he just had to make up something, but the joke was immediately after when he was saying, "Oh, the only thing in the briefcase was just papers, business papers." Next question was, "What do you do for a living?" "I'm unemployed." I thought that's the joke, but the papers, the joint, that's clever.
Yeah. So afterwards, the Big Lebowski confronts the dude, and while the dude explains some of the information that Maud has and that Bunny owes money to a pornographer named Jackie Treehorn, and he thinks it's like, maybe she just kidnapped herself. Like all the things that Walter's been kind of putting in his head, along with Maud's information. But then the Big Lebowski reveals some actual stakes in the film because the kidnappers have removed Bunny's toe and mailed it to him. So
yeah, now let's pause for 1 second.
Yeah.
Now, we're pretty much at the halfway point in terms of all this plot, I would say. This whole case. This whole complicated case. A lot of ins and outs, a lot of what have yous.
You gotta be in a very high drug regimen to keep up, as the dude states.
From what I can tell, she didn't kidnap herself. Bonnie did not kidnap herself. No. She took off out of town, did not tell anybody about it, except for maybe Uli and the nihilists, debatably. I don't know if that's what he knew, because if the Big Lebowski was trying to protect this embezzlement money and pin it on the dude, and just basically throw a ringer to these kidnappers, who I want to get your opinion on. Were they in on it? Like when the Big Lebowski was just planning this whole thing with like a phone book and a briefcase. Were the nihilists in on this? Because they seem pretty confused at the end.
Yeah, I mean, as am I. Because like the Big Lebowski sent them a ringer. So Uli was in the swimming pool in the beginning, so he must have Big Lebowski must have had some connection to him. So perhaps he staged the kidnapping. That's entirely possible, but he had no intention of paying the nihilists afterwards, and that's why he brought a ringer.
Yeah, the nihilists were probably thinking, yeah, exactly, why we should be able to get some money out of this, so they'll probably get it from the dude, because they think that he actually does have the money, but there is no money.
And maybe
there was no money at all.
Yeah, maybe they thought the dude took the money from them when in fact there was none in the first place, but the dude didn't know that at the time.
when Larry stole the car, he was probably like, "What the? There's nothing in this briefcase, so why would I even care about this?" So there's nothing there.
Yeah, let's get to that. So the nihilists do confront Dude for the missing money, and they break into his house. The dude's house has the shittiest security. So it's like a fucking revolving door of people just barging in and assaulting him.
That's my fiance Veronica's favorite scene in the movie. Him stoned off of his mind in the bathtub, listening to whale sounds.
Yeah. Oh, nice
marmot. And as he's getting people breaking into the house, his reaction is, "Hey, this is a private residence, man."
And they throw a ferret into the bathtub.
That's fucked up. Oh my god.
I should mention one of the nihilists are also played by Red Hot Chili Peppers bassist Flea.
Flea, yes. I learned that recently.
Actually has quite a solid acting career. He does like voice work. He's appeared in like movies like Baby Driver and Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. He's had a lot of credits under his belt, which is pretty impressive considering how busy he is with the band. So, but yeah, Flea's in the movie, and that was a highlight for me. For sure. So after being confronted by the nihilists, the dude is motivated to try and find his car. Well, actually, he does find the car. He gets a call that it's been impounded. So he goes to a car lot and finds out that the money's missing. It's been taken. And he's like, shit! And the only lead he finds is a report, which has been crammed in the back seat, written by a dumb kid named Larry. So this is their only lead now. This is their only clue as to find out what happened to their money. And once again, it all goes wrong when Walter volunteers to help. he and Dude go to find the address, and they go to Larry, who's right next to the In-N-Out Burger. And they basically
those are good burgers.
Shut the fuck up, Donnie. Yes, but they go to his house, and they basically, and Walter's excited because Larry's dad wrote one of his favorite shows, and he's in an iron lung now, so he has his heart to heart. It's like, I must say, I was very touched by your work. And then Larry comes in. That's such a minor detail, sorry, but anyways, it's just funny.
It's funny, though.
Yeah, so anyways, they interrogate Larry, who's like this totally stone-faced, apathetic teenager, and he doesn't say a single word, so Walter loses his goddamn temper. It's like, alright, Larry, you're gonna find out what happens when you fuck a stranger in the ass! He takes a bat from the trunk, and
no, there's a crowbar.
A crowbar, yeah, crowbar, that's right. Yeah, sorry, the other guy had a bat. And it's like, anyway, so, there's a car parked out in front of Larry's house, and they naturally assume this brat spent all of their money on this fancy-ass car. So Walter, in retribution, smashes the fucking hell out of the car while screaming, "This is what happens when you fuck a stranger in the ass!" And then it turns out it was just some neighbor's car. It's like, what are you doing, man? I paid this fucking car a week ago. I'm gonna kill your fucking car, man. And he starts smashing the dude's car. It's like, wait, that's not his car. And the best, the punchline is after all that chaos, they went to In-N-Out Burger and drove home.
That is why it's my favorite scene. The fact that they still went out to grab burgers after all that is like the cherry on top. That's why it's my favorite scene.
Yeah, it's fucking genius. So, after all that, the dude is approached by Jackie Treehorn's men again, who take him to his condo out on the beach.
he tries to barricade the door, even though it opens up from the outside in.
Yeah, they didn't even break in; they just opened the door, and he didn't do it right. So anyways, yeah, he meets Jackie Treehorn, the pornographer, who hired Bunny for a few of his films. Logjamming, where, the guy fixes the lady's cable.
The storyline, it's up there with some of the best.
Oh, really? I heard it was ludicrous. So the dude lays it all out for Jackie Treehorn, and he basically says, oh, this Larry kid's behind it all. And Treehorn doesn't blame for a second, and he drugs the dude and gets him barred from the county when the sheriff arrests him after a really massive drug trip where he thinks he's in a bowling alley in the sky or something.
Jackie Treehorn presents Gutter Balls. That scene is beautiful.
To see what condition
my condition was in.
Yeah,
it's so great. I love it.
You can tell Roger Deakins shot this film. the level of like artistry on the screen is just so nice.
The production design is also pretty top notch in this.
Yeah, that's why I don't like to call it a stoner comedy, because most stoner comedies are kind of like just kind of put together, not too much thought. But this, I can tell a lot of effort was put into like the design. So
it's classy.
Yeah, and then so he gets taken in by the deputy, and he's like, I don't like your jerk-off name. I don't like your jerk-off face. Throws a fucking coffee cup in his head. He's like, oh, fucking fascist! And he gets stomped out, and he's just like, he gets sent home in a taxi, and he gets kicked out of the taxi because they're like, oh, I fucking hate the Eagles, man. Who gets your own car? Kicks him out of the taxi. So after a rough fucking night, the dude goes home and finds his place was trashed by Treehorn's men. And he trips on the fucking thing that was supposed to keep his place safe in the first place. And then Maud just happens to be there. She's just like, love me. And they have sex.
That's my robe.
That's my robe. And so after a little bit of afterplay and some pillow talk, Maud reveals that she wanted to have a child with the dude. Because the dude, I guess the dude just thought it'd be wise to have unprotected sex with a woman. It was the 90s, just before sex ed and all that. He's from a different time, but like, this isn't really relevant to the plot, but it's a nice side point, because it's basically like, oh, she wants to have a child with someone who she doesn't really affiliate with socially, and she doesn't want the father to be in any way connected.
Well, that's why she sent him to a doctor.
Yeah, a doctor who's very thorough to examine.
Can you pull your shorts down, Mr. Lebowski? Oh no, he hit me right here.
And so basically the whole point of this scene is that Maud reveals that the Big Lebowski really ain't so big. He's kind of a fraud. He kind of likes showing off his achievements and all that, but really it's all just kind of he's more a figurehead than anything. He hasn't really done much, and he doesn't really have money. If anything, he borrows money from Maud just to be big, and he's married to Bunny to kind of have like a trophy wife.
Yeah.
And after the scene, after the dude pieces this together, this is a bit of a side point, but there's this private detective that's been following around this whole time. It took me many years to kind of get the point of why he's there, but he's been trying to find Bunny himself.
Yeah, because like she ran away, and he was hired by the biological parents of Bunny.
By her family.
Yeah.
And she married Lebowski afterwards to kind of like, live comfortably off his money. Yeah, that's a whole other plot line that came. That just happened, Well, it didn't just happen. Like, he was always snooping around in the background throughout the whole movie. Yeah, I know. It's just another layer of things that happen in this movie. Yeah, inexplicably, Bunny returns from her vacation, high as a kite, running around naked, crashing her car into the property. And this is when Dude and Walter is supposed to be on Shabbos, confront the Big Lebowski. It's just like, you were extorting money out of that fund, and you wanted to pin it on me because you thought I was just some idiot. Oh, aren't you? Well, yeah. And so like it's basically like the climax of the movie. It's like yeah, we figured out what the mystery was, and ultimately it meant nothing. Now, did he actually get the money like extorted, or was like what came of that?
My take on it is that the Big Lebowski was just trying to keep the money for himself, but to almost scare Jackie Treehorn a little bit more, because Jackie Treehorn is wanting the $1 million. That's what kicked off this whole thing.
Yeah, he wants the money, Lebowski.
I think there was an offhand line where Jackie Treehorn said that he's not really in the porn business anymore because there's like competition with now video being kind of like a new medium. So it's kind of hard to get production value and all that into that. So I think the Big Lebowski was probably like an executive in charge, or maybe Bunny was, it had to have been Bunny because it's her fault. Bunny probably took money from that he's trying to get back to pay his dues, and Bunny gave it to the Big Lebowski, Jeffrey Lebowski, and while he kept it and sort of like probably embezzled it more, he had to like have the blame be put onto the dude, which is why I think, because it is true that he's not really. God, no, don't.
Are you okay? Do you need an Advil?
It's such a headspin.
It's a lot. It's a lot.
Because the Big Lebowski really doesn't find anything in Bunny anymore. That is true. Because otherwise, why didn't she say where she was going to be at throughout that whole week? She just sort of took off. So I think with that, he wasn't aware that this was a sort of a sham ransom, because I think the nihilists wanted to get something out of it because they probably scared the Big Lebowski, but then they wanted to get their own money. But the only question is that did the nihilists, were they in cahoots with this whole ransom?
Well, yeah, because like the Big Lebowski, it's hard because I don't think he knows it's the nihilists because he doesn't know like who the ransom guy is, or maybe he does. That's the question we're not quite clear on. Anyway, so angry, Walter basically assaults the Big Lebowski because he thinks he's also like making up his faking his paralysis. Is like, I've seen men with no legs and this guy can walk. He picks him up and crunches him. He falls on the floor, like totally robs him of his dignity. And I think that was the beautiful thing about that, because like the Big Lebowski was still talking shit to these guys, and Walter being the hothead he is, Walter being the guy who you just always seems to bungle everything up, and he just put the cherry on that whole shit sundae. But we're not out of the woods yet, because after another match of bowling, and after hanging out in the parking lot, the nihilists have basically come to get what they asked for. And they fucking destroy the dude's car and set it on fire. It's like, well, they finally did it. They killed my fucking car, dude. So they want the money, even though the guys know like Bunny's safe. Like they just saw her like a few minutes ago, and they're just like, yeah, no, you don't have a ransom. And they call their bluff, and there's like, give us your fucking money anyways. Takes out a sword and all that. So this is shit's about to go down. Yeah, these nihilists are kind of like, they're shit.
Yeah, they're defeated very easily.
Yeah, Walter basically kicks all their asses himself. And, but unfortunately, even though they beat him, Donnie, from the stress, succumbs from a heart attack. And, unfortunately dies on the parking lot. So, the movie kind of wraps up to an end where, like, Walter and Dude have to, like, do something with his ashes. And first they have to figure out how to store the ashes, because, apparently buying an urn is very expensive in LA, and they can't afford it. So they get a Folgers can, and they store them in that. They go out to the beach somewhere, because I guess Donnie liked surfing.
I guess, yeah, because we knew so much about Donnie before he died, right?
Yeah,
Nope.
he was such an integral part of the story. And Walter says something about the Vietnam and spreads the ashes, but he does it in the worst way.
It's not the only time that he's brought up Nam.
Oh no, and it won't be the last, most likely. But he spreads the ashes during a gust of wind, and it all flies in the dude's face. Which is horrible. I've spread ashes myself, so I can tell you, like, doing it during a windy day is the worst.
Oh.
And so it kind of brings all their like anger to a head, and ultimately all Walter can say is that he's sorry, and they hug it out. We didn't really mention the narrator of this story too much, but there's this man played by Sam Elliott.
Yeah.
He's kind of he talks in the beginning of the movie. He shows up in the middle when the dude's at his lowest point, and kind of like tries to inspire him a bit. And then by the end, he kind of wraps it all in a neat bow. It's almost like he's telling a tall tale or something.
Yeah, that's where the Western kind of vibe of this movie comes through, especially with Sam Elliott's voice. It kind of reminds me of just an old folk tale, back then. And the whole tumbleweed at the beginning was very clear what they were going for.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about that tumbleweed. So before I get into that, would you say that after all this, the dude is kind of like Indiana Jones and Raiders of the Lost Ark? Would you call him an ineffectual protagonist? Would the events have played out just the same had he not intervened?
Well, he had to have intervened because if he just got a home invasion at the beginning, threatened, and then it's like, oh shit, this is the wrong person, they left. And then if he would just let bygones be bygones, fuck it, I'll throw away this rug and buy a new one. Alright, now it's time to verse the Jesus.
Who I didn't mention in the plot because he's not really in it.
But that's a great example of less is more.
Oh yeah,
because he's used so sparingly, so small, leaves such an impression, and you know what he's capable of in terms of his bowling skills, and he kind of represents that sort of second chance, or the second coming, as you can say, because he had a really bad history of being kind of a pedophile, and then he had to do an embarrassing thing to go door to door when he moved to LA to tell everybody in his neighborhood that he is a pedophile. But the fact that like the film almost could have went into that direction of being a versus comedy, like again, like a Fairly Brothers comedy of it being
Yeah.
like, and I think you almost appreciate the character of Jesus more because it's used so sparingly and it didn't have to go through the traditional route that we can already see coming, and also we've already seen that type of movie
Yeah,
before,
that's why
like
I
it's
appreciate that, because I would have been so turned off if the tournament was like a major focus of the plot, but it's so sidelined that you almost don't even realize, oh, they're a few rounds in and they're doing okay, but they gotta face Jesus.
it kind of reminds me of The Sandlot, the movie The Sandlot, where that movie's not about a baseball game. It's centered around the sport, and they have to do their own little mission themselves. It's just centered around that. It's not about a big tournament.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because I think the best. This is why I really like the opening shot of the Big Lebowski, where it's like Sam Elliott narrating, and it's just an image of a tumbleweed just rolling along, doing its thing, and encountering all sorts of locales along the way. Because ultimately, that's basically the dude. He's a tumbleweed. He's not really affected by much. He doesn't get overwhelmed too often. Sometimes he does, but that's when the situation calls for it. But ultimately, he kind of just takes the whole adventure as like, yeah, there's just something that happened to me this week. And I'll keep doing bowling, I'll keep drinking my White Russians, and I'm just going to go through life again.
Yeah.
That was really clever. Like, I just picked that up, like, the last time I watched this before we did this podcast. I'm like, yeah, the dude's a tumbleweed.
It's kind of bookended nicely where the film opens up with that song Tumbleweed, and then later on when it feels like the dude has kind of hit a low point where it's either he's going to die or live without his Johnson. He's sitting there at the bar at the bowling alley, and that Tumbleweed song starts playing in the bowling alley, and then the camera kind of pushes in on him, then it pulls back out, and The Stranger by Sam Elliott's there and kind of gives him this. It took me a while because of his accent. I thought he said sometimes you eat the bar and sometimes the bar eats you, but he's saying bear.
I thought he said bar, so yeah. I didn't know.
Yeah.
Was that an Eastern thing?
Far from it. And yeah, it kind of lifts him up his spirits. That's sort of the whole theme of the film. Sometimes you have a shit day, sometimes you have a good day. It's the whole theme of bowling.
Yeah.
A lot of strikes and gutters, a lot of ups and downs. That kind of goes with the dude's character because you can't even see the dude playing any other sport than bowling.
Yeah, that's what he likes to do most, really.
His one and only thing. Apparently, Sam Elliott didn't really. He apparently was on set, and he's like, Coen Brothers, I like being here. I like the vibe and everything. I'm happy to be here, but I have no idea what to do. Because like they kind of gave him direction and all these lines to say, and actually when he was leaving the table, when he was like, "Take it easy, dude," he was trying to walk to the left side. But he actually like turns around and he walks the other way. Apparently there was someone off camera going, no, the other way. Go the other way.
Oh, really? I didn't know that was unintentional. I noticed that too. I was like, well, he goes one way and then the other. It suits his character, but I mean, that's probably why they left it in. But that's funny. I didn't realize that was a flub.
John Goodman playing Walter Sobchak. Again, it's another one of these situations where I am so shocked that they weren't even nominated for an Oscar.
Well, I mean, yeah, it's kind of like it's not really in the pedigree of an Oscar like performance, but yeah, I agree. He inhabits that character so masterfully. And when he says that it's his favorite film and the best role he's ever played, I 100% believe him.
Because it's such a believable role. He's gone through a divorce. He's gone through a war. There's a lot of trauma behind him. And the only way to sort of mend with that is to live in that and live with this sort of aggression to get through and stand by these certain rules and ethics. I mean, he can't even let someone's toe slip over the line playing bowling without him having to draw out a gun and say, "Play by the rules." And it just clashes with the dude's pacifism.
Yeah, exactly.
It's an interesting dynamic, and when you were saying before about how is this like a stoner comedy, usually stoner comedies are buddy comedies, and while this is to a certain extent a buddy comedy,
well, when they're together,
they click so well together. I actually found a lot of symbolism with that first dream sequence after he got knocked out. It was right before the rug got stolen by Maud and her friends. Was when he's like flying and like Maud's on like it took me a while to realize that the flying carpet is actually the rug. It's the rug, yeah. And like I look at like the weight of the world is bringing him down. That's why the bowling ball when he's holding it just completely sucks him down, and he's and he kind of feels like bowling. That's kind of all what his life is about at this point. That's why he feels like he's stuck because he literally gets himself stuck in a bowling ball.
Oh yeah, that scene was so well done. You know how they did that?
They must have like put a camera inside of like something circular.
Yeah,
I'm guessing.
it was yeah. The way Roger Deakins described it was kind of like an outdoor barbecue, like one of those round cooker things that had a hole in it, and he had to attach it and cover the top, and they had to roll it bowling out. And they were so afraid that they wouldn't match the pace of a bowling ball, but it looks pretty good, all things considering.
It kind of has a bit of an oval kind of rotation to it, but I still think it works.
It's not perfectly round, I can tell, but
Yeah.
I mean, it works for what they tried to do. I don't know how you could have pulled that off in any other way back in those days.
And according to Jeff Bridges, shooting that scene where he gets stuck inside of the bowling ball in that dream sequence, that was the only time that he witnessed the Coen brothers had a little bit of an argument. And when he was describing the story, it sounds like the most tame argument ever, and that's just goes to show how they're just tight brothers that just agree to disagree. Where I think Joel thought it'd be funny if the dude's reaction to the bowling ball is he's just bracing for it, like getting ready. I gotta like pucker in and kind of like fit in,
which is what he does.
Which is what he does. But then Ethan said, why don't he have a reaction where he's sort of happy that it's happening to him and he has no reaction? So they were both kind of having like this bit of like a no, we should do that. No, we should do that. And then one of them just said, why don't we just shoot both? And then that was literally the only time, according to Jeff Bridges, that they had an argument. But it was nothing. Because they work so well together.
And they compromise, too, and that's a glorious thing.
Yep.
I can't tell you how many sets can be ruined when two people disagree.
I noticed a lot more symbolism in this movie the more that I watch it. Like, when you said before how many times does the dude bowl in this film, it's 0, and the only time we see it is in a fantasy. I guess that's like the strike of like a lifetime when it happens. But you only see Walter bowl kind of once, even though it's off camera, but you don't know what his results are. You don't know if he's a shit bowler or not. Which is kind of the unpredictability of his character. And the only time that we see a character bowl, aside from, I guess, Jesus, but, I mean, he had a hell of an introduction.
Yeah, that introduction is glorious.
But did you notice every time Donnie's bowling, from the second the movie started to the night that he dies, he gets strikes every time. He's feeling happy. He's part of the gang. Life is great. Even though I get shut down by Walter, I still like to be here. And then the night right before the night when he died, doesn't get one pin down, and that's sort of like an omen for a bad thing to come.
Not a perfect strike, no. Did you also notice how I noticed this too? I was looking at the trivia in IMDb. All of Donnie's shirts have names, but they don't have his name. They're just random names from other people. He wears used like bowler jerseys or something like that.
It kind of goes into his character and how he doesn't really have an identity.
Yeah, exactly. And the reason why Donnie is kind of a non-character is actually intentional, because they wanted to film Big Lebowski, but there was like scheduling conflicts with Jeff Bridges, so they made Fargo instead to fill in the time. And Steve Buscemi, like, he almost never stops talking in that movie. He fills up so much scene. Like, every scene he has with Piers Stormare is just quiet, and he has to fill in the space. He's like, we could chat about something, not hold a conversation. So I think they said, as a bit of a subversion, and apparently like a lot of audiences complained, it's like, oh god, he just never stops. So as a subversion of Steve Buscemi's typical role, they just said, your character doesn't really talk, and he has nothing meaningful to contribute, and that's the joke.
That is true. He's almost similar in Fargo, how he is in Reservoir Dogs, where he's just this loud-mouthed, frantic, so impatient character that doesn't know how to shut the fuck up.
Yeah, exactly. It's a very different role for Buscemi, and obviously he took it because he works with the Coens a lot. So, yeah, but I like that. It's such a nice kind of deviation from the typical roles he plays. I did notice that bowling thing he does, where it's like he has a strike every single time, but that last time, which is pretty good foreshadowing, all things considering.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another thing, I was talking about this, I guess, in the last episode with Michael, on how certain actors will play a dramatic role that's serious in the context of the film, but there's sort of this double layer where the audience is watching it from the inside out, and it comes off funny, and it's kind of feels like they're winking. And the entire performance of Brent, played by Philip Seymour Hoffman, is that.
Oh god, Philip Seymour Hoffman's role in the film is so great.
Like, he's so in that limo scene, it's like that's his pinnacle moment where it's just all he's doing is backing up everything and simplifying everything that the Big Lebowski is ranting to the dude about, but he always ends off with saying dude. And the last one that he says, where it's like, when he's like, did it ever occur to you that Bonnie might have kidnapped herself? And Big Lebowski goes, no, Jeffrey Lebowski, that did not occur to me. And Philip Seymour Hoffman goes, that did not occur to us, dude.
Oh, man. My favorite part of his performance is when they meet Bunny for the first time, she's like, I'll suck your cock for $1,000. And he just, like, pats his sides. And he's like... he gets so tight and wound up. It's like, oh.
It's so uncomfortable.
It's like, oh, that's charming. Brent has to watch, but he has to pay $100. Yeah, he just has this broom up his ass the entire time because he wants to be so prim and proper. He's basically like Smithers from The Simpsons, if I had to compare him to anybody.
Yeah, that's a good comparison.
The way he brown noses the Big Lebowski in every scene, especially that scene during the fireplace scene where he's like really sad and he's like, and then it's like Brent has the letter, and then he just clears up and hands the letter.
Yeah, he just like adjusts himself not to like get all choked up.
Yeah, or he has to kind of act like super emotional to kind of please Big Lebowski because he has an ego. Yeah. Like
you said before about how the dude is so passive and he's like a tumbleweed, he's also someone who just sticks to his own guns. Like, even in the midst of this entire complicated case and his life is getting threatened, he still has the decency to go check out his landlord's tableau performance, whatever the hell that was.
Whatever it is.
Yeah.
The what have you.
The what have you performance. He's not somebody who I strive to be, but he's somebody who has at least achieved an enlightenment that we all see ourselves in if we have nothing to worry about. I guess we all want to have like a worry-free life, but I mean, life is not like that. And the fact that like he has such a chill landlord that doesn't care about like, when, he's kind of flexible about when he pays his rent and all that. And then the fact that he's unemployed, all he does is just drink, smoke, and hang out with his friends. It's quite a fascinating thing.
Yeah, so some people can live very comfortably like that, and others not so much. So yeah, he definitely fits a certain type of person that, I'm sure all of us know somewhere in our lives.
You mentioned before that somebody reminds you of Walter?
Yeah, I used to have this best friend in high school. He was like this very stubborn, very silver-tongued. He always had to have things a certain way. He only ate Kraft dinner. That was the only food he could eat. He was very well spoken, kind of like Walter. Like he had opinions. He was well learned about things, but he would not like it if something didn't go his way. He didn't have the same like anger issues as Walter, I wouldn't say, but like let's say you had a conversation where the person got upset. It's like, dude, you're being very undude right now. It's like, would you just chill out, man? I'm calmer than you. Like, he would just flip the conversation to make you look like the dickhead. And he did that a lot. And, we kind of stopped talking after a while. But, definitely Walter always reminds me of him.
Honestly, when there's a friend that you bicker with that much, it's almost like, what's the point? And you just sort of drift away at that point.
No.
That's kind of happened. I mean, nothing has ever gotten to the point where it's like the kind of friction that Walter and the dude go through. I just want to bring up again the gutter balls scene because I'm a visual guy. I love the fact that it's just symbolizing everything in his mind. The fact that it's Saddam giving him his bowling shoes was a really nice touch.
Yeah, and the fact that he's dressed like Uli and log jammers.
Yep, he's sort of just like, it's like women and the sport of bowling is all what his life is. And one thing that I didn't notice until this last time is that when his first scene with Maude, she's doing like a naked Jackson Pollock thing. I didn't notice that when she was talking to the dude about just this whole case, that there's one painting in the background that is red with giant scissors painted on it. And I was like, oh, that comes in later when he's fantasizing. He's having like a bad trip after of like the nihilists coming in with the red kind of morph suits and these over large scissors. And he's just afraid he's going to get his Johnson cut off.
Yeah, the Autobahn band.
The Autobahn band, yeah.
Kraftwerk called. They'd like their style back, please.
Yeah. I even love the one colleague of Maude where all he's doing is just giggling. He's like this pretentious video artist.
Oh yeah.
Doesn't even have the common courtesy to give the dude a drink. He's just like, have a seat. Would you like a drink? He sits down. The bar's over there.
Yeah, that guy is great. His name escapes me at the moment, though. He played Lupin in the Harry Potter movies, but God, he was in this incredible Mike Leigh film called Naked, and I can't remember his name, even though I know him so well.
He has a very infectious laugh. I love
it. Oh my God! I just love how he keeps laughing, and then eventually the dude's just like, "What the fuck is wrong with this guy?" It's one of the few times the dude actually loses his patience with someone. He's just like, and then she's like, then Maud, to add to the surrealism scene, he's talking Japanese with someone on the phone and giggling away like a schoolgirl. And that scene's just so, there's such an austere vibe from it. I don't even know what to say.
It's like you don't know what to laugh at the situation or just laugh along with him because that's all that's happening in the scene, and the dude is just standing there like, what do I just leave now? I don't know what to do.
Well, it's like it's intentionally frustrating, and we feel the frustration on the dude because it's like, I came out here. Do you have anything to say or contribute to the case?
I respect the dude's taste in music when it comes to CCR, but what does he have against the Eagles?
Yeah, I don't know why he hates the Eagles specifically, because, I mean, they are well within the same wheelhouse as, like, CCR, and, they make very good music, so, I don't know, maybe it's just not as, maybe he just has, like, something against them. In fact, apparently a member of the Eagles either came up to Jeff Bridges or maybe even the Coens, and he just asked him like, why did you single us out like that? Like, what do you have a personal thing against us? Like, what's your beef? I don't know if it was an angry confrontation or just like a civil one, but yeah, and it was never explained. It's just like one of those random things that's a part of his character.
You said before that the one victim that falls short is his car. Also, that girlfriend of one of the nihilists. I mean, the fact that she had to suffer through that.
She had to sacrifice a toe for no reason.
That's bullshit. That should not have happened to her. Like, that's just, like, creepy and weird. Like,
it's kind of like one of those questions you would ask someone, like, what would you do for, like, millions of dollars? Would you cut off a limb for, like, millions of dollars? Kind of like one of those crazy questions that you wouldn't really put into practice in real life, but when you think about it.
And they didn't get anything in the end.
Yeah, I mean, Flea got his balls smashed by a bowling ball, and Uli lost an ear. It's what they deserve, I guess, for being like greedy assholes and harassing the dude. So I'm glad they got their comeuppance.
And then everything's just sort of booked in at the end with the stranger coming back into the picture. Like, I like how the dude was getting a few beers from the bartender, and bartender's like, I'm so sorry, what happened to Donnie? And he was about to say, well, sometimes you eat the bear, and sometimes, and he turns and the stranger's there.
Yeah.
And he basically ends everything off by saying the most quotable, meaningful thing is that the dude abides.
The dude abides.
No matter what happens, the dude abides.
Yeah.
I love the stranger interacting with us, giving his thoughts on the movie itself. It was a pretty good story. It made me laugh. Parts, anyways.
Yeah.
Like, he actually says, I didn't like the fact that Donnie died.
I hear there's a little Lebowski on the way.
A little Lebowski.
Yeah.
I'm happy that the doors closed and that there wasn't any continuation. I mean, I don't care about watching the Jesus rolls. I do not care.
I was gonna mention that movie, yeah, because I watched it just out of curiosity. Because I mean, as you can tell, like, I love the Big Lebowski, and I was just kind of curious, like, what would John Turturro do with it? He doesn't do a lot. The whole thing is this, like, rambling, mediocre film that doesn't really have a whole lot to do with Lebowski. The only things... It's like the first if you watch the first 5 minutes, you'd probably get as much of the references, because he actually does address, like, why he got, like, a sex offenders registry.
Oh, okay. I was going to ask you that. Like, how much of this story is now written originally, where it kind of, like, does it have anything to do with the little bits of information that we got out of his character in the original?
I can discuss that. Apparently, all that happened was he was in a bathroom, like, by a urinal, and some kid came by. He's like, he had a conversation. He's like, where's this or that? And he just turned and pointed, and then his father came in and saw him, like, unzipped in front of the kid. And that's what got him to get on the sex offenders list, I guess. It's kind of like Charlie Day in Horrible Bosses. He got drunk and urinated in a playground, and people thought he was doing something worse. Kind of like that kind of... Sort of it kind of undercut the whole thing, actually. It almost made me wish I didn't learn that.
Well, I mean, in the context of that, why... I would just be like, hold on, kid, let me finish here. Zip up, and then turn to him and say, that's where you need to go. Like,
Cody, it's supposed to be a comedy. Nobody does the smart thing in a comedy.
uh,
But other than that, the whole movie is basically just John Turturro and Bobby Cannavale having three-ways with Audrey Tattoo, or however you say her name, and Susan Sarandon, and like them just kind of driving around. Unlike the Big Lebowski, you know how we're like I wrote a plot graph detailing how each thing linked together and how each clue set up the next thing. There's no connective tissue in this film. They leave Audrey Tattoo for the cops. And then and she gets arrested, and 15 minutes later, they come to her house, and she's there, and it's like, oh, nice to see you. It's so badly written, and I'm just like...
Did John Turturro write and direct that movie himself?
I think he did, yeah. And the Coens were not attached. They didn't want to be attached.
Yeah, that's probably why I didn't watch it. If the Coen Brothers were not even a writing credit or an executive credit, it's just like, why even bother?
It's usually not a good sign. There were a few Coen Brother regulars that showed up, like Tim Blake Nelson. He's there for a scene. I don't regret watching it just because I was so curious about it. But I can't say in any way that it's a good follow-up to The Big Lebowski. Like, I wouldn't even say John Turturro really plays the character all that much. Except for the beginning, maybe. But after a while, I just kind of see John Turturro. I don't learn much about him. And there's only one bowling scene.
I mean, if it's closer to the end, I guess that would make sense if it's a prequel. So I'm okay with that.
It's not I don't think it's a prequel.
Oh, it's a continuation.
Oh, wait, no, he did get out of jail. Maybe it was a prequel. That doesn't make sense, because he's so much older now. I don't know.
Yeah, also the age factor is going to definitely hurt the film. I don't want to bother. I don't want to hurt it.
Dumb movie, don't bother. I think that was the last film I saw before the pandemic, too. Oh. My last cinematic experience was this.
I really liked what you said before on how when you were in high school and you first saw this film, you thought that Tarantino and the Coen Brothers go hand in hand. I would also want to include PTA.
Yeah, Paul Thomas Anderson, absolutely. There's a lot of his regulars in Big Lebowski, too, like Julianne Moore and Philip Seymour Hoffman.
All of them. Even just the whole natural vibe of these films with Tarantino, the Coens, and PTA is that they do feel like hangout movies, even though crime is sort of the genre that it's planted itself into.
Yeah, absolutely. And the movies have a very, very good balance of, like, nice humor, nice moments, but also some, like, dark moments and moments where things get really fucked up and serious.
Yeah. I don't like sugarcoating anymore in movies. I'd rather watch films or anything, really, even if it's documentaries or shows. I'd rather just watch something that's sad but true than something that's happy but it's phony.
Oh, so you don't like stuff that's, like, saccharine? Or like
saccharine, cynical, or just like manipulative. It just does. I get like, ugh.
That's what was so great about the 90s. Like the American independent boom really stripped away a lot of that sort of stuff. So yeah, absolutely.
But I mean, there's a handful of things where they are a bit manipulative and kind of corny that I kind of have a soft spot for. But it's all about context.
Absolutely.
One more question before we move on to a certain thing that happened with this film's popularity. What would you prefer of having, a White Russian or a good old sarsaparilla? It's funny how I said sarsaparilla sarsaparilla, because I said it like sarsaparilla.
Sarsaparilla. You gotta have that. You gotta have that cadence when you talk about essentially root beer. Depends on my mood. If it's like maybe in the afternoon, maybe a sarsaparilla, but if it's nighttime, a White Russian. Especially like in the wintertime, I'd probably like a White Russian. You know, I can have a sarsaparilla any day. I'm gonna go with White Russian.
Or a Miller High Life. I think that's the beer that Walter had a few times.
Yeah, I think it was a Miller, actually. You're right. Yeah, what would you have?
Oh, White Russian. It's always that. It's just, it's like you said, coffee, creamy, and you can feel the punch the more you sip it.
I was gonna say, does it have that shitty vodka aftertaste, or is it kind of hidden?
Not really. This vodka's kind of subtle. I mean, it all depends the one that I just made, it is pretty much a brown cow with a shot of vodka. You'll taste more of the cream if you use half and half. Some people use heavy cream. I don't know if I'd recommend that because it's a little bit too fatty, too much fat in it. But that's all that you have. Just go for it if you're craving it.
Yeah, because I'm kind of staving off vodka because I find it too heavy now. I drank way too much of it in high school. I got way too sick off of a screwdriver once, and then I just kind of stopped So
Flavored vodka around this time of the year, like if you mix like say like a seasonal Smirnoff with watermelon, if you mix that with like a Sprite or a 7 Up, it's
ooh,
pretty damn good.
that sounds pretty
Yeah.
good. I'll have to try that, I guess. All right, so shall we carry forward into the aftermath?
Yeah, let's do the aftermath of this what will soon to be cult film. What sprang from this film in terms of its sort of hidden fan base that started to really grow?
Well, two things that definitely come to mind. There's the Lebowski Fest, which happens on a yearly basis, and it's I don't know if it has a specific location, but or if it's just celebrated across the nation. But yeah, people dress up and go and have like I remember I saw this one video where a guy dressed up like a toilet, and every dude cosplayer had to like smash their head into him. That was pretty funny. Sometimes Jeff Bridges and Julianne Moore or other cast members sometimes show up and do interviews.
There was that one waitress in that diner coffee shop scene where she's like, "I'm gonna have to ask you both to leave if you don't keep your voices down." She showed up on stage and everybody was like giving her a round of applause. Just little little characters like
part.
that. Yeah.
That's a bit part. And
Yeah.
she got oh, good for her. I'm glad. But yeah, Lebowski Fest looks like a lot of fun. Maybe we'd go sometime, but if we were in the States. But and there's also a religion called Dudeism.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right. This movie has a fucking Bible written after it, based entirely on the dude and all of his principles and his perceptions and his way of life, essentially. Because as Cody said before, like the dude does have a very specific like kind of code that he goes by, and he's very respectful to most people who are close to him, and he doesn't usually let anything get too heavy or drag him down by much. So yeah, Dudeism is interesting, to say the least. I can't say I've seen too many pop culture religions that spring into the zeitgeist. I find that so interesting.
I kind of just look at it as it's surreal pacifism. That's all it really is. Just kind of keeping your opinions to yourself, just respecting people for however they want to live, just sort of leave them alone. You're not superior to them. You kind of shy away from people who think that they're more superior than you. I don't see myself as the dude, but I see myself as just like I don't like to get in confrontations sometimes. I don't like to like be too overly political, even though that I'm not really a political person, but
Yeah, me neither.
I'm very I would lean more towards the left side of things, definitely. I definitely think that life is progressive, I mean that's kind of how mankind has always been. You just need to kind of roll with things. When it comes to aggression, it's something I don't really particularly like, but
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it definitely Dudeism strikes me more as a state of being rather than an actual like scripture that people could like take on a similar to like other theologies. But it's just interesting that it stemmed from some little cult film that kind of flew over the radar, or flew under the radar, I should say, back in the late 90s. I found that so interesting. So, yeah, as we stated, the fandom of Big Lebowski is very outspoken now, and it's growing year by year.
yeah.
And that's great. It's now considered like one of the best movies ever made, and it got selected by I forget what it's called, the National Congress?
The National Film Registry at the Library of Congress.
Yeah, that's it. I got it mixed together. For being historically, culturally, or aesthetically relevant.
Yeah.
Yeah, that happened not too long ago. I think in the 2010s, I believe, 2014, something like that.
When you were saying before about like costumes and all that at Dude Fest, I was watching a video and it got to a point because they would do this yearly. They were running out of ideas for costumes that they had to do like little things. Someone had to go as the carton of the half and half, and one had to go as the Kahlua. Like it got pretty ridiculous.
I heard this one story where there's this theater, kind of like the Carlton, and how like the Carlton in Toronto, the Carlton Cinema, that shows The Room like on a monthly basis, like every last Saturday of the month. But like over there, it's The Big Lebowski. And what's insane is that the Coen Brothers, one of them, and maybe one of the other producers, like actually showed up to the theater because they were screening their film, and they saw like a poster of The Big Lebowski. I think this must have been like kind of a little later on after they released it, and they were like, "Oh, Why is there a poster of the Big Lebowski there? It's like, oh yeah, we're screening it every month. It's just something to do because we love the movie so much. And the person who said that didn't even realize they were talking to the people behind the movie.
Oh.
I don't know. I just thought that was amusing.
I think we can definitely get to final points. I find that this film has resonated a lot with me personally as years go by. It definitely is a film that when I watched it the first time in high school and I was rewatching it, I went through my first breakup in high school, which really hit me hard. And this film was there around that time of me getting past that. And it got me through a rough time with just that simple philosophy of just, strikes and gutters, ups and downs, That's kind of life.
Yeah.
But life moves on. But what kind of separates this film from different comedies and my favorite comedies is that it's classy and it's sort of like a combination of a lot of different styles of comedy. I wouldn't want to compare this to something like The Simpsons because that's something I do say about The Simpsons and how it's just sort of a melting pot of comedy.
Yeah.
Because it's a community. But this is one where I love watching it to try to decipher on what's going on in the film. And even when I just said before this recording, Lyle, I got this plot down, beginning, middle, and end. It's going to be good. And even me describing it, I'm getting lost in translation. Like, if you can't describe something, but you're so fascinated by it, that really does transcend to art.
Oh, absolutely. I agree.
And I think it is a work of art. I think it's a hilarious farce. I think it's extremely well written. The entire cast is on point, and it is definitely my favorite comedy of all time. I'm not going to be that person that will say, if you think this movie is a little overrated, you're an idiot. But I will say, if you think this movie is overrated, you're an idiot.
Well, I mean, that's a bold statement. Yeah, I don't know. I think this may be my favorite of the Coens, perhaps.
Oh, it's my favorite of the Coens.
I mean,
yeah.
Fargo's up there. I need to give No Country for Old Men another chance because, I watched it when I was a little bit too young, so I didn't grasp it as much. But yeah, as far as it goes, it's the one I've watched the most definitely. So yeah, it's definitely very high on my list in their filmography. Yeah, everyone, like you said, everyone's great. Everything just works. I can't even really say too many negatives about it, other than sometimes I'm a little bit lost in all the characters and their motivations, but that's just that's all there. I just got to pay more attention.
It's part of the nature of the film.
Exactly. And I know there was another film that kind of tried to do what the Big Lebowski did, and that was Paul Thomas Anderson's Inherent Vice. That kind of tried to be a detective story.
God.
That tried to have so many characters and so many beats, but I just didn't care. I can't sit through that.
Do you remember back in the film school that we went to, the Toronto Film School? It was the early terms where we had to take a movie scene and just try to reenact it, even though it was shoddy, or if we were practicing just a wide shot or over the shoulder or anything like that.
Yeah, I remember that. My class, the group we did Clockwork Orange, and I got to play Alex, so that was a highlight in my...
Clockwork Orange is coming soon from a friend of mine, so... Sorry you have to miss out on that. It's first come, first serve. But anyways,
yeah.
I find Inherent Vice is a movie that is made specifically for upcoming filmmakers like us to just grab any random scene and just reenact it, because every fucking scene just feels so disconnected. It's a series of well-crafted scenes, but you're sort of put into waves through the tone of how does this all mesh together? It's just so weird.
Yeah.
There are a couple of films that I would say actually, I won't say that they got up to the same level as the Big Lebowski, but they have managed to do their own thing and achieve that feeling a bit. One would be Under the Silver Lake.
Oh, I haven't seen that one yet.
It's done by the guy that did It Follows. It's an A24 movie, actually. Just Andrew Garfield plays a stoner and falls for this one girl that moves into his apartment complex, and after a night where they hit it off, she just vanishes off the face of the earth. She just kind of moved out, and he just investigates what happened to her, and it gets into all this conspiracy theories and just stoner stuff. The last time I watched it, I had an edible, and it actually kind of enhanced the experience of it. So I would say that's a bit recommended, but it's because it's definitely going to deserve a second watch. It's not ripping off the Big Lebowski, but you can definitely see the influences.
Oh, yeah.
I can't think of any other ones that really did achieve that kind of Big Lebowski feeling, but that is definitely a testament to the film itself. It's just one of its kind.
Yeah, I honestly, maybe that's because it wasn't an initial success, so people weren't clamoring to kind of get off that cheddar. But yeah, you're right. I honestly can't think of any that feel exactly the same as it. Well, I'm kind of tapped out on things, so
Me too. Me too. I'm taking my last sip.
This last sip of White Russian down the hatch.
There we go.
Please subscribe.
Yes, everybody. That takes us to the end. Please subscribe to So to Speak. Drop a like. Drop a comment. Thank you so much, Lyle, for being on this show.
Oh, no, thank you. This was a lot of fun. It's nice to have a discussion about this film.
Hopefully you will be back again to tackle another cult film that we either equally love or equally hate. We shall see.
Copy that. I can't wait.
I think The Dude Abides is too much of an obvious line to close off on, so I'll give it to you.
Fuck it, dude. Let's go bowling.